Hello, Mitch here with Compass Drone, which is a Compass data company. I've got to fill out a waiver for a project, so I figured I'd record it. It is September of 2022. Websites are changing. It's very confusing right now, so I thought I'd record a video, help you get back to those websites that have changed over the past couple of years. So I got a project. It's in Class D, Class Delta airspace near Cheyenne Regional. This blue stapled line means it is controlled airspace to the surface. This is a FAA sectional map. They have a better map to help you with drone ops. They've gridded out controlled airspace all over the US. And there's two types. There's airports depicted in green and airports depicted in red. Let's talk about the green ones first because they're easier. These are enrolled and participating in LAANC. And what LAANC is the low altitude authorization and notification capability. And what that means is if you're flying near an airport and you're a 107 pilot and you need to get authorization, if the airport's depicted in green and you apply for the elevation in your grid, let's say you're doing some ag work in this field. If you apply for 100 feet in this 100-foot grid, you'll get automatically approved through one of these apps on the LAANC website, Airbus, Aloft, UAS, Sidekick, Wing. You create an account, answer all the questions, and so long as you apply for the proper elevation, you'll get approved. If you apply for 100 foot and a 100-foot grid, you'll get approved. If you apply for 400 foot and a 100-foot grid, you'll get automatically declined. So that's for airports that are depicted in green, meaning they are enrolled and participating in LAANC. But I'm working in Cheyenne. The airport's depicted, the grid is in red, meaning they're enrolled but not participating in LAANC. So that's where you need to get a waiver. Here's my little dirt project, and it's about 2 nautical miles east of the runway, and it exists in a 200-foot grid and a 100-foot grid. So we need a waiver. We're going to go, these links change all the time, websites change all the time. You can bookmark them, but it's just best to start at FAA.gov. They have a new drone link here in September of 2022. And we'll go for certified remote pilots. That's what a 107 operator is. We're looking for the drone zone. Used to be just dronezone.faa.gov, but that also changed. And then they're notifying you, hey, it's going to change again. So we want to get there and you apply for the waiver in the same spot you register your drone. So go for that link. Should look like this. And once you launch it, it actually looks like the old website, which is comforting, but shows you your drone inventory, 107 users, and prior authorizations. They have some instructions here. And then when you click create a Part 107 waiver, it's going to ask you want to do operational or airspace. Operational is for, if you're going to waive like operations over people or something like that. It's talking about a restriction that you're hoping to waive, and some of them are waiverable. Because I want to operate in an airport depicted in red on the map, I just need an airspace waiver. Start date is important. You want to give them 1 to 2 weeks to review your application. And so long as you do a 200-foot application in a 200-foot grid, I've been getting approved in 5 to 10 business days in the Western US. Maybe different in other parts of the country, but I mentioned that don't put tomorrow's date here. You're not going to get it by then. Give them a week or two to review this application. Tell them what time of day you're going to be flying. I wish they would do it once because most of my projects I just fly them once. Time zone, straightforward. Proposed location. This one is 2 nautical miles east of a good landmark. If it wasn't, you might intersect it like between 2 airports. You'd say like 9 miles west of Cheyenne and 14 miles southeast of Laramie. just so they could like triangulate that on a map. Again, if you apply for 400-foot and a 200-foot grid, you're going to get denied. So just make sure your altitude matches the grid. Latitude and longitude, get these from Google Earth. Drop a pin on your project. Here's the pin. And then after you've dropped it, go to right click and go to properties. And the FAA form wants this in degrees, minutes, and seconds. So this is 41 degrees, 9 minutes, 54.62 seconds. And don't truncate these. These are already pretty truncated and not super accurate, but they're accurate enough to tell the FAA where you're operating. If this is in the wrong format, you need to go to tools and options and switch from like decimal degrees to degrees, minutes, seconds. So Google Earth Pro is free. They'll get you this coordinate that punches in really well here. Then they want a radius in nautical miles. So click on this measure tool, go for a circle, click on the center of your project and drag it outwards. And this is about exactly a quarter nautical miles. It's very small. It's a quarter of a nautical mile. Always round up, make sure the FAA knows, the extent of your project. Quarter nautical mile to CYS. Cheyenne Regional Jerry Olson Field, CYS. All the airports in the US start with a K, so CYS or Kilo, CYS, same difference. Airspace is D, and then this is the most important box. You got to tell the FAA how you're going to do this safely. So I'm saying one-time access, 40-acre project. They don't need a lot of details about feelings or surveying or exactly what you're doing there. They just need to know, how you might conflict with air traffic. So probably too much info. They don't care if I'm doing LiDAR or imagery. They just know I'm operating a drone in the national airspace. 4 flights, 15 minutes each, daylight hours below 200 feet. And I'm going to bring 2 remote pilots. I know there's going to be a lot of traffic at that airfield. And I know if you Warren Air Force Base, there's going to be a lot of Blackhawks actually like going around the airfield, which will bring them right over me. So Cheyenne's a very busy air traffic place. So I'm going to bring 2 pilots. That way I'm watching the drone. I've got another person there watching aircraft in the area and saying, yeah, that one's going to miss us to the south, or no, we need to land. That one is a problem. It's coming right at us. 3 remote pilots, or a pilot and 2 visual observers is not a bad idea either, in case you have 2 aircraft and a drone to monitor all at once. Really helps to monitor the frequency. So as aircraft approach this area, they're going to announce on 118.7, hopefully 5 miles out, 2 miles out, and when they enter the pattern. And it helps to become familiar with the orientation of the runways. So Cheyenne has a runway 13 and 31, 130 degrees and 310 degrees essentially. I'm not as concerned with pilots talking about that runway as I am with pilots talking about the east-west runway, probably a runway, like 90. This one was under construction, so they removed the markings, but I'm going to figure out the orientation there and listen for pilots announcing that they're going to land on this east-west runway. And I'm going to know that because I'm going to monitor the airport frequency, or if there's no airport nearby, the common traffic advisory frequency. Or if there's not one of those, there's sometimes a practice frequency, but that'll give me hopefully a 5-minute head start. If I hear an airplane is coming to land, I'm just going to let him land and then launch afterwards. Very helpful. The FAA also wants to know what happens if your drone has a problem. So if it loses link to the pilot, we'll be flying some drones that mark their home point. And so if it loses link to the pilot or the ground control station, the drone's gonna fly to a preset home point and land using GPS. If the drone happens to lose link to GPS, the pilot can bring it home with radio controls. So redundant control systems, very safe operation. And then, did you already submit one in this area? Yes or no? I have not. So I'll say next. And one thing, this is kind of a summary of what all you've put together, but took an FAA guy calling me for me to notice this add an attachment. What that is you can upload a bitmap, document, JPEG, and what they want to see is your project overlaid. They just want a screenshot of this. That way they know exactly what you're doing, exactly where you're going to be. And don't just screenshot this tiny little area. Show them where your project is in relation to the airfield. That way, this goes right on the form to them. And I guess if they're having a problem that day, they know exactly where you're going to be. So this little, lost my mouse for a second. This little add attachment is very key to helping the FAA understand your operation. So got all the info. I'm going to click submit, and within typically 5 to 10 business days, if I filled everything out correctly and gave them all the info they needed, I should get approved for that waiver, and I can operate under the restrictions of that waiver. One other thing I forgot about these waivers, whatever you type in there to help the FAA understand that you can do this safely. Let's say, bad example, I tell them I'm going to wear 2 hard hats for extra safety. If that makes it on the actual final waiver, you have to do that. So if you put in there, you're going to wear 2 hard hats, you actually have to wear 2 hard hats on the operation. So you want to give them enough info, accurate info, about how you're going to perform this mission safely. But you don't want to handcuff yourself. You don't want to be overly restrictive to where you get out there and the mission is taking 2 or 4 times longer than it needs to because you maybe you went all the way down to 50 feet and you could have got it done at 200 feet. So you want to provide good info, accurate info, but you also don't want to handcuff yourself. So hopefully this was helpful and help you decide when you need a waiver, when you need a LAANC, and some tips on how to get there. Thanks.